Hey, this is Casey from Casey Tech, where your grandpa talks about tech from a grandpa's point of view. Listen, today I want to talk to you about the best webcams for 2023. And there are so many to talk about. I mean, when you go out to the store and you're looking at, okay, which one do I pick? Which one do I pick? I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell you which one to pick. And then you figure out if that's working for you. So stay tuned, give us a like, and let's get to it. So as you figured out, there are so many webcams out there, and they all have value, but not all of them are the best and not all of them the worst. So the first thing we have to find out is, what kind of webcam do you need, or what are you willing to spend? And as the title says, we're going to go under less than $200. Now, so the first thing we need to do is understand the basics understanding of what specs you're going to be looking for. So let's look at that right now. So whether you're going to put in using OBS or Zoom or Skype or whatever, you need to know what kind of specs you're going to need. And first thing, a lot of those terms you may not understand. So first thing about resolution. Basically, resolution is how many pixels are in the picture, so that you don't get grain. It's not grainy. It doesn't look poor. If you ever had a cheap camera and you notice that it's very grainy when you try to blow it up, so that's the first thing you have to look at. You want to look at something that has 1080p or better. The other thing, and like I said, is the number of pixels. And pixels is very important, because if you're going to go on YouTube or Zoom or something like that, and your camera's poor, you're going to get a very poor image, and whatever you're doing is not going to come out well. Now, frame rate really depends upon whether or not you're going to be streaming or recording for YouTube or Zoom or something like that. 15 frames, 16 frames per minute, 30 frames per minute, depending upon the camera. And that really will change, because when I move left to right, as I'm doing right now, all right, if you're going at a low frame rate, you're going to see like shuddering, which means the camera can't follow. Or if you're recording a sports scene or something where people are constantly moving their hands, you need a higher rate of frames. Now, angle of view. The angle of view is, if you remember your standard cameras, you go this wide, or you go this wide, or you go this wide, or you go this wide, right? And they'll have, anywhere from 60 to 70 to 100. As you get wider, you can see more on the image. But the problem is that as the quality of the camera is, that you get distortion on the outsides. So the picture isn't as perfect. The picture isn't as crisp. So if you're doing, let's say, a room with people in it, and you're having a conference, and you have a wide 150 degree, the people on the edges will look distorted and look strange. So that's what that talks about. That's why you look at those specs. So let's talk about the first camera, and that is the Logitech 92022 series. Logitech has been making cameras for a long time, and they were the standard when I started doing my chats or video for a long time. Now, many other cameras have come out, and we're going to review those in a minute. But as you can see, as you will talk about right here, the specs, as I started talking about, okay, is that you're seeing that this one can do 1080p at 30 frames per second. And that makes it a very good camera. And the microphone has a range of about 3 feet. So if you're doing it, you're going to be right in front of the camera. And it has a fairly good low light system in it. It has been stable for many years, and it runs about $60 today on Amazon, as last I checked. Now, we're going to start, like I said, we're setting it less than $100, which is the best one. Now, depending on your budget, you may not be able to spend a lot of money. The Lambtech is about $20. It's your bargain basement, low cost fairly good quality camera. It is 1080p, only about 15 frames per second, and low light. It does fairly okay. I do individual reviews of these different cameras, and you'll check out my webpage. You'll be able to see them. But at this point in time, we're just going over them. It does have a microphone, does have you know, a privacy shutter, which is a really nice feature because when you're talking to someone and you don't want other people to see what, you can close the door, and it's really cool. So one of the next step was a fill light built into the camera, and that was built. It came up with the Razer Keto. It's available. It's around $99 on one of the higher end cameras, and just like a standard camera, it can mount on top of your monitor, or it can mount on a tripod. And one of the things you might want to consider is how are you going to be connecting your camera? So what are you going to be putting on a tripod? Well, something you may consider as one of the things you will want to do is this is the suction cup. And this can go on the back of your monitor and lock in. And I have other videos which I talk about these attachments that you can use. Now, the only thing about it was when it came out, and it's still only about 720 DPI at 60 frames per second. So for quality video recording, it does not really good for high-end processing for the money that you're spending. The other thing about that I don't like about this particular product is that it requires a proprietary software. So when you plug it in, it's not plug and play. You have to load their software, put it in, and set it up. And they require your email. They require you to get a password, and then it'll work. While it does a decent job, it's too hard and too much work to maintain it and keep it going. So let's talk about something that you might like. Now this is my next favorite camera, and it's made by Uzano. It has a 1080p, 60 frames per second, low light capability, can be mounted either on your monitor, or it can be placed on a tripod or any other thing because it does have the standard tripod mount on top of it. Now, one thing to be mentioned about all of the video production web cameras is that the one thing that they have in common that makes you crazy is that when you plug them in, they say live camera in WebBrute. In other words, the problem is when you try to plug multiple cameras of different manufacturers, they don't want to work together. That's something that could make you insane. Like if you're trying to set up a YouTube channel and you're trying to put multiple cameras in, you'll start discovering that some of the cameras won't work with other cameras. Something to consider. But like I said, that one has low light capability. It's only about $60. It does use compression. It can be adjusted, and it has autofocus. So not a bad camera at all. I like it. I use it as over here as my second camera when I turn right to somebody during my videotaping. Now, next up, this is the one you're actually been watching all this time. This is my primary camera at this exact second, and that is called an Angietube video camera. It's got the built-in fill light, 3 levels of intensity. It's 1080p, and I can adjust the frame rate. I can twitch up to 60 frames per second, which is great when you're doing a live broadcast. And it has the fill and light, which really does a great job of helping give you the best quality. I like it. It's been my primary now go-to camera, and for several YouTubers that I know, for less than $60. I mean, you can't beat that price, you know. Now, obviously, there are limitations to any of these cameras. So up to now, we have been talking about just less than $100 products, cameras that vary in quality. And that's something you really need to consider is when you're looking at all these cameras. What is your budget? You know, number one is, of course, the Lambtech decent camera, good picture, better than the camera that you're going to find on your laptop. And that's great. But there's something you have to consider is they also, some of them just have mics. And the quality of the microphone may not be as great as you want it to be. And that's going to be another subject. You can check out my other videos on microphones. Now, the next camera up for less than $100 is the Ausbot camera. And it's an AI intelligent camera, which means it's intelligent. You can set it to follow you. So if you're a person that likes to talk while they're walking and you can move left and right, the camera can be set to actually follow you automatically without actually physically moving, which is a great thing. The other thing, of course, is you can have your background blurred. And I'm actually just bought one for myself. I'm going to be doing a full review and test. Look out for that. That's maybe why you should hit subscribe and the bell so you can know when that's available. And it is probably now one of the most talked about cameras. Now, the only negative thing about it is it doesn't have a fill-in light, so you're going to need to use a fill-in light if you have bad situations like that. And it comes with a dedicated app, which you can now set all kinds of parameters on the camera. So whether you're moving left to right and you want the camera to follow you because you're moving in a meeting maybe, or you want the background blurred, because you don't want people to see what's behind you. All of these things are available on this camera. So, and it's, again, less than $100. Really, really, the amount of quality webcams has come up for that price range. Now, I'm going to be doing another review on products that are above that price range, somewhere between 100 and 200, and some of the added features that you can get. Again, you have to decide, what are you going to use it for? What features do I need? And what kind of lighting do I have? Now, the most important thing, of course, is that a lot of these cameras don't have the greatest microphones. I don't care what they say and what they do. And so you may have to consider purchasing another microphone with it. I happen to be using a Yeti. So if you like, if you want high quality sound, you will have to consider, if you're going to be doing some kind of streaming or that, you need to have a quality microphone so that people can hear and understand. Let me give you the sum up on this. The bottom line, there are a lot of webcams out there, and a lot of them are junk, let's be honest. And it depends on your price point, but for less than $100, you can get a very, very good camera that can really fill your needs, as long as you know exactly what you really need. And that's one of the first things, just like when you go shopping in any store. You want to know you make a list of, what do I need this camera for? What parameters am I going to be under? Am I going to be in a dark room? Am I going to have lighting? Am I going to have a lot of sound around me? How wide an angle, that's important, can the camera go? And if that camera is not going to be wide enough because you're having a business meeting, then you have to consider another camera. Now, I've been using the Angietube for now over a year, and I love it. Okay, the camera quality is great. Several other YouTubers that I know are also using this camera because the price point of what we wanted to pay is great. But I'm going to be doing, like I said, in the next few weeks, a review of the Ausbot video camera. Now, there is another version. This is 4K. It runs around $150. This one I bought for $65 on Amazon. Now, so anyway, I hope this information has been good and helpful for you. I worked really hard to get this information to you. So give me a like, share this information, tell your friends about it. And if you decide, you can subscribe also. Anyway, have a great day, and thank you for listening.